The rumor mill has been a buzz for Call of Duty 2021 and what that means for multiplayer and Warzone, but recently some insiders have come out to talk about what they have heard in relation to these topics and clarify some things that are out there and to give some new information. Today, we're going to talk about all of that and get you up to speed. So as we go along, let our thoughts down below. What do you guys hope to see out of Call of Duty 2021, World War II, Vanguard, and Warzone? Are you happy to see a return to World War II if it does happen? Or are you hoping that we maybe see a switcheroo happen and a different era is chosen instead? Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video though, make sure you drop a like down below. Let's see if we can get 1,000 likes here on this video. And if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all things Call of Duty 2021, Warzone, and anything COD related. We'll keep you up to date with all of it. So if you guys are interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. That said, let's dive right into the discussion. So the information that we ended up talking about here today in this video comes from Tom Henderson, a known leaker and somebody whose track record is pretty impeccable when it comes to not only just Call of Duty, but other things in the gaming scene as well. But a lot of what we focus on here and a lot of what we talk about is Call of Duty. But as of yesterday, he put up a video talking about Call of Duty World War II Vanguard and some new updated things that he had heard around his sources and around the community, clarifying some rumors and things that we have on deck already, but also adding new things to the discussion here at hand for what we can expect to see within not only just the traditional MP experience of Call of Duty 2021, but also the Warzone experience, which is probably where a lot of curveballs come into play. Now, truth be told, I think the bulk of this does come down to Warzone, so we'll start with that, but perhaps one of the biggest things to come out of this discussion was the idea that we'll end up getting a new Warzone map at launch. This is something that has kind of taken a couple of different turns here in the past couple of months, which is interesting, but he states that the choice for this was made about a month or two ago, which does kind of make sense in terms of how fast they're moving here to correct what will be coming within later this year. And what I mean by that is that as of recently, there was even reporting and rumor that there wouldn't be any integration at all for Call of Duty 2021 within Warzone. That doesn't mean to say that that reporting was wrong, but just so much that initial development of the game is still in motion that much, that such a big change could be kind of made on a whim within the last month or so. Personally though, I do think it's the right move. I think that we do need a new map for Warzone, and especially by the time of Vanguard's release, but I wonder how that will all pan out. As far as I'm aware, the initial Verdansk was in the working since pre-launch of Modern Warfare in 2019. I'd imagine at the very least, like about a year before its launch or so March of 2019, and that kind of makes sense because myself and a couple of other YouTubers and press were actually invited out around the March to April timeframe of 2019 to go out to Infinity Ward and get a little bit of a preview of what's to come here with Modern Warfare later on in the year. Before the reveal of Modern Warfare ever happened, we had a little bit of a sit down with developers and everything like that, and those larger scale maps were something of discussion, so that was at least in their mind at that point and likely already working towards the Warzone map. Now, I'm no game dev or game engineer, but I feel like a map of that size and scale to make it and get it to where everything's playable and ironed out in a year is still a bit short, but I don't know. So to have like 6 months or so until a game launches to produce a map that's rumored to be much larger than the present day Verdansk and make it with all new locales set in an entirely different part of the world, utilizing some new tech, that's all a tall task. But a map potentially coming at launch of Call of Duty World War II Vanguard. Personally, I'm a little bit conflicted on that idea of upfront rather than staggered. Given that one, I'm always for a boatload of content, especially at launch. Big launches means big stuff for the game initially, and I love that, but at the same time, I did quite enjoy the initial launch of Warzone and then the launch of 84 coming in March and April. It gave you that full game at launch and an experience you can play around with for a couple of months, and then whenever things start to finally die down, as they normally do with the Call of Duty cycle, you got something to be excited about once again in March or April, kind of prolonging that sort of death of COD cycle that happens every single year and keeps the summer months not as dry, which was definitely nice. Now, I'm wondering though what that means for next year's reveal plans for the proposed Modern Warfare Roman numeral 2, if that ends up happening and we end up getting a map at launch, because that leaves then that 6-month out period completely open to fill that usual May timeframe that we saw before, say, Black Ops Cold War and everything like that, and likely what we'll see again here this year with Vanguard as a reveal in August or September. Maybe we end up seeing it return back to that standard April, May, June timeframe, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, my final notes here for the topic of this launching with the launch of Vanguard. I get it. I get why they're doing it. Warzone boosts sales of the premium game tenfold, and that's something that Vanguard will likely need from the get-go. I mean, take out the fact that it's a World War II game, you have Halo and Battlefield coming out this year, and that's already going to be some solid competition at the very least. A genuine threat if all goes well for those games, though. And add that in on the fact that, well, it's a World War II game, you've got yourself something that could likely need all the help it can get. And that in and of itself is something that I feel could warrant a discussion of itself. I mean, like, why World War II again here with this? We see that we have the wild popularity of a modern game, so why give us World War II? Well, I'd imagine that was something that was greenlit shortly after World War II was finished up, right after Black Ops 4 and that less than ideal game and offering and reception with things like supply drops, but Sledge needed to get working on their next project, and disregarding what happened with Cold War and the rumored Sledge and Raven feud, World War II was a safe bet for Activision suits. World War II was, believe it or not, the start of a new peak for Call of Duty, selling nearly 20 million copies with no help whatsoever. That was more than what we saw with Infinite Warfare the year beforehand, but also it was something that returned Call of Duty back to the regular formula, if you will, after that fatigue of the jetpack era. Modern Warfare became the best-selling Call of Duty game with the help of Warzone, but before that free-to-play jumping off point and an era and story that really hit home for a lot, World War II was that return to Call of Duty formula that worked really well for Activision, so they likely greenlit that new peak at that point based off of what they had seen previously. But this new map is apparently going to feature a few new aspects that are definitely worth noting. A few days ago, we did talk about the rumored leak for the new Warzone map that included points of interest that we can see at the launch, those being Airstrip, Arsenal, Beachhead, Caldera, Capital, Docks, Farms, Lagoon, Mines, Resort, Radio Stations, Subpen, and Village. But to kind of show the scale of how this thing is moving incredibly quickly, and there's a lot of moving parts, apparently Docks is no longer Docks, but instead is a fortified warship that is probably beached here with this. So that is something that is definitely interesting as well, and could potentially alter the scale already of the Warzone map and what we have on offer. Another thing that was talked about with Tom's video here, it clarified a little bit of something that was going around in terms of a rumor regarding destructible environments. Now, it's not going to be something like Battlefield where you have that full scale of everything is destructible and there's some crazy environments that can be altered and anything like that, but instead he put it nicely as a comparison to Rainbow Six Siege. For those that have played Rainbow Six Siege, you'll know that things like doors, trees, walls, those are all destructible, but in the grand scheme of things, they're more minor and smaller elements to the map, offering up some variability in how you can take some engagements, but not really changing it like Battlefield would, where you destroy an entire skyscraper. Apparently, though, this is also due to generational limitations from what he was told, meaning that the discussion was possibly there for the implementation of larger scale destructibility in Warzone for PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, but because we're still seeing players on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One that's still supported on that last generation of play, the possibility just isn't quite there yet. But anyways, Warzone out of the way here, talking a little bit about Vanguard multiplayer. What he said is a little bit unfortunate here if you're a player that likes traditional 6v6, stating the game is seemingly going to be a Cold War 2.0, with low launch content, around 8 traditional maps as a launch experience. But what is interesting is that Tom mentioned that we'd end up seeing the return of Ground War in that same fashion that we saw Ground War in Modern Warfare. Not how like we see it within Black Ops Cold War, where it's like, what, 12 players or something like that per each team, but instead on the larger and grander scale of something like a 32v32. So I'm wondering if that's going to be something that adds on to those 8 maps. Hopefully, I can't imagine we end up seeing like 5 maps with 3 Ground War maps, but that is something that is definitely going to be interesting. And if Vanguard is in fact using the Modern Warfare 2019 engine, that'll be nice to see that kind of continue on in a game that feels very much so like it. Now, as for the zombie side of things, he ended up mentioning a little bit about what he had heard was kind of a clarification of the rumor that we ended up seeing a little while ago, where it was rumored that Treyarch was actually going to be working on Call of Duty 2021 and the zombies aspect there, in which a lot of people are excited for that in relation to the world building and the story elements that will continue on, potentially even new maps coming that continue directly that storyline. But what he says goes a little bit against that initial rumor, kind of putting Treyarch in a sort of consulting role here with this, where they'll allow them to use the storyline, they'll give them those hints at where they want the storyline to go, but basically saying that Treyarch is the guiding hand, but Sledgehammer is not allowed to mess up Treyarch Zombies, because apparently Zombies has a huge future ahead of it. Maybe potentially with Tom flirting at the idea of a standalone Zombies game at some point. That also would make sense given that we see Outbreak being its own sort of thing here, encompassing large worlds for zombies. So maybe that's the case, but it's likely going to see the continuation of the storyline, but maybe not as much hands-on development as initially thought of from Treyarch. But that is what we ended up learning here out of Vanguard for the multiplayer, zombies, and Warzone experiences as of recently here, and it's definitely interesting. A lot to consider, a lot to ponder, and as we get now into July, we're getting closer and closer to official reveals. Again, we talked about it earlier in the video. Likely August to September is my guess here with this. The Cold War reveal, if I'm not mistaken, was like August 26th or something like that. So we're about a month away from when we can start seeing things really ramp up in terms of information. But for now, that's what we have. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of all of this? Are you guys looking forward to Vanguard and World War II in either multiplayer or Warzone? Not so much. Whatever it is, feel free to let me know your thoughts down below. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you have a single thing regarding all things Call of Duty 2021, Warzone, and anything COD related. We'll keep you up to date with all of it. So if you guys are interested in joining the community, I'd love to have you. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, there's the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. Practically on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. That said, thanks so much for watching. My name is Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.